I wish to raise the serious predicament that many farmers find themselves as a result of continuous pressure from the Greens and your government. First being the proposed 25% reduction in emissions, resulting in a cull of 200,000 cows by 2030, carbon tax, the cost of carbon tax. Then we have the Chinese boasting that they are increasing their herd by over 1 million cows this year. The Nature Restoration Bill, which was passed in the EU Parliament on February 27, supported by all government MEPs, including our own local MEPs, Sean Kelly and Billy Kelleher. This was very disappointing. This bill sets out that 20% of our land and sea areas must be taken out of food production and re-wetted by 2030. This could actually mean that homes could be flooded. Minister Patrick O'Donovan is very concerned and says that this was not thought out properly. The this will also affect smaller farmers along the western seaboard areas like South and North Kerry that benefit from the 1945 arterial drainage and other grant area schemes, and by their own hard work, their own sweat and blood. They slaved to make their places productive. Now in one foul swoop, all their work will be nullified, wiped out all because of the Greens' agenda and your lust and quest for power. Then we have the reduction in the nitrates derogation demanded by the EU, which our government didn't defend properly, means many farmers will have to cut production. Cull cows as they can't rent or buy additional land is too expensive. Small farmers won't be viable. I know one farmer that will have to reduce his cows from 58 to 48. It won't be viable for him to continue. Why is it that the same focus of attention isn't being placed on local authorities and Irish Water, who are also polluting streams, and rivers all over the country, as many treatment plants are overburdened? Several treatment plants in Kerry need improvements, and sewerage extensions and treatment plants need to be built where there are none. I attended a meeting in my van last Friday night where over 200 people launched their local development plan. The whole thing hinges on a new treatment plant, or the present-day treatment plant being extended. And they're pleading and begging for a treatment plant to be placed in my van. Suckler farmers and beef bull breeders are deeply upset after building up efficient, sustainable breeds. All that work is compromised following the ICBF changes to the star ratings, demoting Shirley and Limousine and promoting Dexter's. Many farmers have been disallowed from claiming back that from much needed improvements on their farms. More wanting to build extra storage can't even get planning. We have the most sustainable and efficient system of producing beef and dairy in the whole world on a fresh grass-based system.
Thank you. Get a chance to come back.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the Deputy for raising these issues, and could I say more generally that food production is essential, and in the context of climate change, resilience in our food production system and food security is absolutely essential. So rather than undermining our food production system, we'll be increasing it, because tá gír gá on chorus a threisiú agus a dhéanamh níos láidre. And so in that context, as you know, we work with the farming community, and the Minister of Agriculture does as well. And you know, 1.5 billion in a flagship environmental scheme. The Acre scheme was developed by the Minister. It's the Agri-Climate Rural Environment Scheme. And what's interesting in that, Deputy, there was exceptional demand for that. About 46,000 applicants, farmers, who wanted to be part of that and taken into tranche one. And Minister McConlogue announced yesterday that all of the more than 9,000 applicants to tranche two of the scheme will be accepted, bringing the total number now of participants in acres to approximately 55,000 farmers involved in an agri-climate rural environment scheme. And what that shows is farmers are up for engaging with government to do the right thing. And I was last year in Timoleague, where there was a project there where in a catchment area, Kilbritton, Timoleague and Barryroe and others, who monitor the situation in relation to nitrates. And it showed the degree to which farmers were facilitating research on their farms in terms of water quality. and subsoil types and so on like that. There was an education for me to be there. And I listened last Saturday morning to Boucher Hayes and the countrywide programme, an eloquent farmer from North Cork near the border with Kerry, having a similar project there, and saying how he regards himself as a guardian of the landscape, and how it's important that from a nature perspective, that it's important for food production that you have good husbandry, if you like, of the land, and that you protect the land, and you create, that biodiversity is important to food production. And so I think sometimes an impression is given that farmers are against this and against that. Many, many farmers understand this and get this in terms of the need to ensure for the long term a food production system that will facilitate, that will not unduly or will not undermine biodiversity, or indeed also prepares to enable us to adapt to climate change, because climate is going to, my worry that climate change is happening. I know you might have a different view. Climate change is happening, and I've been in Galway and elsewhere, and the flooding that has happened is damaging food production systems. So we've got to adapt, and some of the ways of adapting are natural methods of adaptation, and that's why healthy ecosystems matter for food and food security. And that's why I think you need to be more balanced in terms of the nature restoration law, because I think there's a lot of positives that could come out of that nature restoration law. It's going to take time, obviously, to implement. It's not immediate, but it could be a positive too in terms of making sure that we've a sustainable food production system for the long term.
Dr. Danny Healy-Rae.
Look, Taoiseach, some farmers will survive in the Golden Vale and the places like that, but the places that I'm talking about have poorer type soils, and many of these smaller farmers are going to be wiped out. And what they can't understand is, and we're all under the one sky, Taoiseach, how is it that the Chinese can increase their dairy herd by 1 million cows this year alone, and they're increasing their herds in South America and cutting down the Amazon forest? How is it that all that is happening under the same sky? So the Chinese can increase and everything is grand. Once our dreamer of a minister, Eamon Ryan, will be happy, our carbon footprint will be down, and the Chinese will be up. That will be fine. And you see, the fishing industry is gone, and almost gone, nearly wiped out because of inaction. And agriculture is the next. Because when farmers have to cut back so much, no longer are they viable then, and they can't stay in the land. And it's a struggle at present. And then what do we do to farmers' sons and daughters in recent days? Only change the category for driving of a license for driving a tractor. And the question that I'm asking you here, they're saying you must have an Arctic license, a lorry license for the drive a tractor doing certain types of work. I'm asking you, Taoiseach, will them same lads be able to do the driving test on a tractor and get an articulated license for it? Because that's turn it around. If you're demanding that they must have an Arctic license for to drive a tractor, I'm asking you, will you allow them to do the test on a tractor?
Deputy, we're over time and we're on the wrong road.
First of all, I'd say to Deputy that the fishing industry is not gone at all. Obviously Brexit did impact. Agriculture is certainly not gone. Because if you look at any relationship we have with most countries in the world, and you look at the export table, all you see is a rise in Irish exports of agricultural produce. So, for example, China is importing Irish milk products and dairy products for quite some time. They will be. There will be. You see, this is kind of exaggeration, saying it's dead and gone. It is exaggeration to the chair. And the bottom line is, they've lifted the beef is also being exported to China. And anywhere I've been as Minister for Foreign Affairs, I'm invariably accompanied by someone with Board BIA with new product lines and exporting to new markets. So I think we need a bit of balance and proportion. In relation to the farmers in your area, I take your point. But that's where we do need, through the new Common Agricultural Policy and the next Common Agricultural Policy, that we support farmers in disadvantaged areas, which the Acre Scheme does actually in a lot of areas, and other schemes in terms of biodiversity schemes. I would increase the funding in those schemes, and that's why the carbon tax came in, to allow us to give ring-fenced funding to farming, So, for example, if you have to protect a rare species on your land, that you're adequately compensated. Not just for 1 year or 2 years, but you're adequately compensated for a long time, so that we protect our biodiversity. So it's about incomes, getting incomes to farmers, and we're determined to do that.
You say you're travelling the world, and you ask
Deputies and Tánaiste, please.